says, given two angle measures in a triangle, can you find the third angle measure? Talk with someone sitting next to you. Can you do that? All right, raise your hand if you think yes. Raise your hand if you think no. Raise your hand if you're not sure. So saying I have a triangle, what classifies a shape as a triangle?
A triangle. Has 3 points.
Has 3 sides or 3 points, okay? So any triangle, this is true for. Okay, I want to talk about notation real quick. We all know, we should know, what does that little m mean? Measure. This means angle. The A is the vertex, right? Or whatever angle they're talking about. So this notation right here is talking about this angle here. Okay, the measure of that. Okay, your book, if they're ever talking about triangles, they're going to notate them triangle, and then they're going to name it off of the 3 points. Okay, so triangle ABC, they're talking about this triangle here. Okay, so what this question is asking, someone give me a random number. 12. Someone give me another random number. 42. Okay, so what it's asking for is, given 2 angles in a triangle, can I find the third one? Some of us are nodding yes. How can I find the third one?
You add up 2 angles that you already have and subtract them from 180.
Yep, what fact do you know? All 3 add up to?
180.
Yep, all 3 angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So, write that down. All angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Okay, that's the big new fact of today. Okay, no matter what triangle you're looking at, so any 3-sided shape, all the angles inside that shape add up to 180 degrees, no matter what it looks like. Okay, so let's do some practice with this one that we have here. What would my first step be to find x? What do I have to do first?
Add 42 and 12.
Yep, add 42 and 12 together. So that gives me 54. And then how would I find what x is?
Subtract 54 from 180.
Yep, so do 180 minus 54, and that is 126. Okay, so that would give me the measure of x. Okay, and we want to label those degrees since we're talking about angle measures. Okay, so big fact that you should have wrote down in your notes, all angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Yes? Okay, before we move on, we talked about, you don't have to take these because you already have them. Okay, I'm just doing it for the recording. Okay, we talked about 4 different types of relationships with parallel lines and transversal, right? We added 2. Do we remember what they are? Vertical's 1. Yep, vertical. What's the other one? Starts with the A. Adjacent. Yep. Vertical and adjacent is going to be our best friends today. What do we know about vertical angles? Yep, so if I draw a picture here, our vertical angles would be angle 1 and angle 2, right? Those are vertical angles. What do we know about the measures of vertical angles? What's the word for that? Congruent. Yep, their angle measures are the same or they're congruent. What do we know about adjacent angles? Right next to each other. Okay, I'm going to specifically talk about a straight line and 2 adjacent angles. Okay, so do you agree that 1 and 2 are adjacent angles? Okay, talking about this line right here, how many degrees is a straight line? 180. So do you agree that 1 and 2 add up to 180 degrees? Okay, remember that fact. Is it also true that these 2 angles right here are adjacent? They're right next to each other, right? But do those 2 add up to 180 degrees? No, okay? So in order to use the fact of being supplementary or adding up to 180 degrees, it has to be involved with a straight line. Does that make sense? Okay, so biggest thing today, remember vertical and what we know about vertical angles. Remember adjacent angles and what we know about those. And then all angles of a triangle add up to 180. Okay, those 3 facts are going to help us out today. Okay, look at your example 3. We're jumping to example 3. I'm going to do this example with you. This is not in your notes. This is just an example for before. Okay, so we want to find angle X and angle Y. Which one do you think is the easiest to find first? Why do we say x? Why is x the easiest to find first?
Because you have 32 and 78.
Right. Remember what we said at the beginning. If we know two angles, we can find the third. Okay, same way that we did. How do I find it knowing the two angles? What do? Add them first. 32 plus 78 is 110. And then I would do 180 minus 110 to give me 70. So my x value here is 70 degrees. Now, usually when you find a variable, it will help you find the other one. Is that the case in this one? No, okay? X, that's great that I found it, but it doesn't help me find y. So we kind of have to start all over to find y. Can I find y easily, quickly? How?
Subtract 180 from 78.
Why do you say that?
Because y and 78 share the same line.
Right. Remember those adjacent angles? Okay, remember we have this straight line here, and it cuts. They share this line, so that means y and 78 are adjacent to each other. Since we have that straight line, we know they add up to what? 180. Yep, so all we got to do is just take 180 minus 78, and that gives us 102. Yep, so then y is 102. Since we're finding so many different angles, what I want you to do, just so like when we get to tests and stuff, we all know what's expected, I want you to write it separately. X equals 70 degrees and y equals 102. That just makes it easier for me, and it makes it easier for you staying organized. Okay, because then you know you found everything that you need to. Okay? Questions about either of those x or y? How we found either of those? Okay, go try example 3, A and B. Remember, using relationships that we know, those three that we talked about. All angles add up to 180. Vertical angles, what you know about those. Adjacent angles, what you know about those. Looking at A, which angle could we find right now? X, right? Why can we find X? What'd you say?
35 plus 96.
Right, we know two angles, that means we can find the third one. Okay, so we take 35 plus 96, you get 35 plus 96. Thank you. What do I do with that?
Subtract it by 180.
Yep, 180 minus 131 to give you,
51.
should be 49. Okay, that is my x, so I just got x equals 49.
Wait. Never mind.
Okay.
Wrong number.
Now we have to look at y. Okay, I want to ask you a couple questions. Could I figure out y by comparing it to 35? Can I compare these two angles? Why not? Do we know what these two angles add up to be? No. So we can't use 35 to help us. Okay? Looking down here, can I use the 77 to help me? Right now. What am I missing? I need to find this angle first, right? In order to help me find y, I have to find this angle first. So sometimes you need to find things in order to help you find the rest. How can I find this missing angle right here? Yeah, why do you say that? Because what kind of angles are they? Yep, they're adjacent angles. We know these two right here add up to 180. Okay, because they're right next to each other on that straight line. So then we take 180 minus 96 to give us 84. Is that my answer though? No. Okay, that just gave me this angle on the inside. Now can I find y? By doing what? Yep. So now we're doing the 84 plus 77 is 161. And then last step. Yep. 180 minus 161 is 19. So y here is 19. Now, some people, when they're working on problems on their own, they stop here for y. Let me show you how you can check yourself. Because sometimes we get lost by, I don't know if I subtract by 180 now. I feel like we do it a lot. Okay? Check. 161. Does angle Y up here look like it's 161 degrees? No. Okay. We know it's going to be smaller than 90, so use that to check. Does that make sense? Okay. Use the picture to check what your answers are to make sure they make sense. Okay? B. Which one can we find first? We can find X by doing... Yep. 57 plus 59 is 116. What do I do with that? Yep. 180 minus 116. 64. Yep, so X is 64. Now we need to find Y. Ideas. Right, we have vertical angles here, right? Here and here. So we know vertical angles are equal or congruent. Okay, so we know this angle in here is 64 also. So now how can we find Y knowing that? Same process we just did, right? But with the other triangle. So we can do 42 plus 64, that is 106. And then last step. Yep, 180 minus 106 is 74. So then Y equals 74. I'm not going to be too picky on labels, okay, because I know what you mean. But we do count these as degrees. Let's talk about these two together. On A, what do we think? Find the missing angle, right? Remember what we talked about at the beginning. If you have two, you can find what the third one is. Okay, so add them together. 54 plus 57 is 111. And then to find the other angle, 180 minus 111 is 69. Is that my answer, though? No, that was just the missing angle we had here. Now what can I do? What'd you say? We have to figure out what X is, right? What relationship can I use? What'd you say? Yep, they're adjacent, so I can do 180 minus 69 is 111. Okay, do you notice something? Does anyone notice something? That's what we got the first time, right? That will happen. Okay? But I wanted to walk through those steps just so we're remembering those three things that can help us find things. Okay? Because it's not always going to be this nice triangle where it's just by itself. Okay? So seeing those relationships is what's going to help you. Okay? What about letter B?
I don't know.
This time, do we have two angles on the inside? No. So we have to find the other angle on the inside. What do we think?
180 minus 104.
Yes, because these two angles right here, remember, are adjacent. So we can do 180 minus 104 is 76. So that is the angle that I just found in here.
76 plus 40.
Yep, now we can do I know two angles, I can find the third. Okay, so it goes 76 plus 49 is... What?
25.
Thank you. And then from there,
180 minus 1.
yep, 180 minus 125 is 50, what? There you go. So that is my angle on the inside. Questions on those two? Okay, the diagrams did look a little different, but did we solve them any differently than the ones before? No. Okay, remember, we're still using those three things. What's one of the three things that we look for?
The third angle.
Yep. All angles add up to 180. Okay, what's another relationship we look for? Vertical angles. What do we know about vertical angles? They're the same. What's the last one?
Adjacent.
Adjacent, what do we know about adjacent angles? They add up to 180. Yep. Good. I do want to talk about example 5. Don't worry, we're not going to do it, okay? But you are going to see multiple triangles put together, not like this, okay? So, like example 3 in your notes, there were 2 triangles put together. You might have more than 2 put together, but you still use those 3 things that we just talked about to make the connections. Okay, when looking at this, could I find angle 4 without doing anything else? Like, could I find angle 4 right away? No. Okay, so if it's asking you to find, let's say, angle 4, don't expect that you're just going to do one thing and it's going to give you angle 4. You might have to find other parts of the triangle before you can find what angle 4 is. Does that make sense? Okay, so when you get to problems that are big like that, it's not always just going to be a one-step solution. Okay, so don't think that way. It will more than likely be 2. Okay?